Hey, what is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here. We're mixing things up a little bit today, so hopefully you guys can hear and see me all right. Feel free to jump in that comment section. Let me know if you can hear and see me. We're going to be trying something a little bit different. I'm going to be playing a video game while we smoke weed tonight and hang out. So again, feel free to hit me up with your real estate investing questions, all that good stuff. I'm also going to go live here on Instagram. But Instagram's going to be kind of second fiddle tonight to YouTube because Instagram will not be getting the live video. So Instagram, there's YouTube. YouTube, there's Instagram. There's the game we're going to be playing tonight. Going to be goofing around and playing Kingdom Rush, which is a game that I used to play a ton of. Probably wasted lots of time on that. So anyways, what's up Instagram? What's up YouTube? Awesome to see all this. Although it's been a while since I was on this. I guess I can't actually see anything for the number of viewers, eh? Oh, that's too bad. Used to be able to see that on StreamYard here. All right. Well, anyways, I had a viewer actually write in a really long question, and he's in Japan. So he said coming on these live streams wasn't super practical for him. I can respect that. So all right, this is a really long question, guys. We might not even get around to the video game tonight if I actually read this question, try and answer it, but it did seem like a well thought out question, so I thought it'd be worth at least exploring. So let's do this. I'm actually going to pause my music so I can actually hear myself think. Hey, Matt, and this was from Jay Revel. So, hey, Matt, thank you for letting me submit a topic for Monday Madness via DM. I really appreciate that. I've been really pondering the topic and the below question. I hope this topic resonates with you and your viewers. I hope it can be taken up. Here goes. Broad question. In terms of broad social trends, what is your opinion of Trudeau's affirmations of the WEF's Great Reset? Relatedly, if things such as UBI and MMT were to become reality, how would that affect real estate investing in Canada, and how would it affect cash flows, cap rates, and appreciation? We can't see the future, but to some history is a guide. The broad social trends that we are seeing in the Western world are very familiar to what people saw in Venezuela, China, Cuba, Romania, Vietnam, etc. When they watched their country descend into communism, socialism, Marxism, what would you say to that? Okay, so I'm going to answer that first, although this is really just like part one of his question. So in regards to UBI and MMT, so for anyone that's maybe not familiar, UBI, Universal Basic Income, and if I understand what MMT is, that's like modern money theory. And so again, if I remember correctly, modern money theory is essentially viewing, unemployment as a byproduct of government policy. And so it's really government's job to try and keep maximum employment. And UBI, Universal Basic Income, obviously here in Canada, we kind of saw UBI 1.0 or at least a beta test of it with the CERB program. So I can definitely understand where a lot of investors are coming from when they're starting to think about these things. So what's my general thought in regards to all this? I mean, do I want a great reset? Do I want to see government mucking around with more regulation and rules? No, I don't. But do I think it's going to be the end of the world as we know it? I also actually don't think it's going to be the end of the world as we know it. One thing that I try and remind myself of is, and I forget where this quote came from, but it's earlier than you think. And what I mean by that, and the reason I reference that quote, is I think oftentimes we get worried that like this time it's different. This time we're on the precipice. This time, things are really about to get fucked up. And while that's not impossible, I think in general, understand that like, communism, socialism, all that stuff, we either slowly drift in that direction or we have violent revolutions. And things like UBI and MMT and, the Great Reset, while those may not sound desirable and they may not be preferable for us, they're also not like the hard revolutions. So when I say that it's earlier than you think, it simply means that it usually takes a lot longer for these things to actually come to fruition if they are going to come to fruition. So it's certainly something worth keeping an eye on, but it's not something that's causing me great panic. Now, in general, when we're looking at something like a UBI, my assumption is that that's going to be very inflationary in nature. And so that inflation is going to naturally see itself reflected in real assets like real estate. And so because of that, if anything, I think the UBI is going to create greater demand and greater values of rent prices, right, for our rental units. So if anything, I would expect UBI to be very beneficial to landlords like myself in Southwestern Ontario, because what we need to understand, right, is minimum wage is $15 across the province, but the cost of living is dramatically different depending upon what city, municipality, or region that you happen to be living in. And so that $15 minimum wage means that you're making, roughly $30,000 a year in salary, or like income, assuming you're working a 2,000 an hour job, like 2,000 hours a year job, or alternatively that you're working full time. So based upon that $30,000, right, the average Canadian spends 30-40% of their income on shelter. That means that you're roughly looking at having about $10,000 in disposable income. Now, a UBI, if it's going to be around $2,000 a month, like we saw CERB, again, that's just going to create a certain floor for demand, and that's going to be around $24,000 a year in income. Again, if we extrapolate that out, that should still be something like $8,000 a year that someone can afford to pay for rent, and that's going to create a certain floor for demand. So if we were looking at two people on CERB, they essentially can afford $1,600 a month for shelter. That's actually quite favorable for landlords in Southwestern Ontario. So overall, I don't see it as being this detrimental thing or this end of the world thing that we need to panic over. So then moving on to his second question. Also, Chris Rood has recently been pretty outspoken about this, saying, good luck trying to 10x your life and business in a communist and or socialist country. Interestingly, he also said, I don't care how much your guru tells you, it doesn't matter, because it absolutely does matter. An environment that supports upward mobility is key. For example, speaking of Venezuela, apparently all the capitalists in Venezuela moved to Colombia. And apparently Colombian real estate is booming. Venezuela is dead. So I can't comment specifically on Venezuela or Colombia, but I certainly could believe that there's maybe not a lot of true capitalists or libertarians or just freedom-oriented individuals left in Venezuela. I could see why they might move on to greener pastures. Now, in regards to Chris's rude comment, that this is important. It is and it isn't. So if you're literally in the midst of a communist revolution, then yeah, it's probably pretty important as a capitalist to be pretty aware of that and to prepare accordingly. However, I don't think that we're actually on the precipice of this. Again, we certainly should stay in tuned to what the broad social consciousness is drifting towards, right? And certainly we're seeing a lot more friction in the media these days. However, we've always been on the cusp of different friction in society and revolutions and things. So again, people don't realize it, but it wasn't like we've had a relatively long period of stability. And so whether that's a new normal or whether this is, just a brief respite, who knows? But I personally lean towards, I guess circling back to the comment that upward mobility is important, I absolutely agree. So for me, the freer we are to exchange and interact amongst ourselves and the greater degrees of freedom we have as individuals, the more prosperous that society is going to be. I really subscribe to Matt Ridley's Rational Optimist. If you guys haven't checked out that book, I cannot encourage it enough. It was one of the first books I made my employees read as part of our company book club. We're actually right now reading The Road to Serfdom. So that's Frederick Hayek's book, which is really considered one of the more prominent and popular critiques of both communism and Nazism and totalitarianism and just fascism and authoritarianism in general. A lot of isms, I guess. But he really bashed on all the isms in that book. So, yeah, I guess I'll go on to Jay's last question here, and then I'll try and bring this all into a cohesive thesis. So, even Robert Kiyosaki is poised to move out of the U.S. and has been broadcasting on that topic. Then on the other hand, you have other investors proclaiming that they don't care about politics, news, pandemics, broad social trends, etc., and pay no attention to such. What would you say to this? Where is the balance? Where should one be sitting in this regards? How is that related to real estate investing now in the near term? Ignoring broad social trends in this day and age thus seems ill-advised. What would you say to this? Yeah, Jay, so again, totally understand this perspective. And I guess the first thing I would say to this is, yeah, again, I'm not saying that we should be completely ostriches and just stick our head in the sand. However, that being said, again, I don't think that we're truly on the cusp of the government seizing all real assets from citizens and stuff like that. Now, at the same time, like, if they do that, them's fighting words, in my opinion, and all of a sudden you'll see the pacifist form, or the Matt McKeever, formerly the pacifist, into no longer a pacifist. But just in general, for me, getting upset over individual policy choices, or even, things that politicians or pundits or the general media are going to push out there, I can get worked up and all about it. And I used to when I was in my early 20s. Like, I used to be a much more hardcore libertarian and a lot more outspoken about that, and felt that like every discussion I needed to loop into individual freedoms. Now, that doesn't mean that my perspective has changed on that, but just my sense of what actually moves the needle has changed a lot. And so for me, I'd rather focus on, starting a book club with my team members and really getting them to read and understand political policy and history, and just understanding that it's the freedom of exchange that has allowed us to niche down our skill sets, and that developing of niche skill sets and specialization and expertise is really what's allowed our prosperity to flourish. And Matt Ridley, in the book The Rational Optimist, explores the idea of ideas having sex. And again, a lot of this comes down to specialization. And so without free trade, without the ability to exchange amongst ourselves, that can't blossom and flourish the way it otherwise would. So for me, I'm much more focused on trying to create, an army of intelligent capitalists, rather than worrying about individual government politicians. Again, politicians are naturally, they're in the business of mucking things up. So for me, it's nothing new that they're going to say all kinds of crazy ass shit. And sometimes they'll get away with it, but a lot of the times someone will pull the reins back on them. For me, the long-term play is to really become a social media influencer and be able to lead by example, and just show that capitalism and free exchange is the answer. It's the solution that we all need. So that's really my thoughts. Until I get my own country, that's pretty much where we're at. So anyways, Jay, really appreciate the well thought out question, and it was well worded as well. Hope that was a satisfying answer. Overall, though, I would first focus on doing you. Until you're like a deca millionaire, I think you're better just putting on your oxygen mask and really getting control of your finances. Once you get into the 8 figures of net worth, then I think it's time to really start thinking about, next steps and protecting yourself. And in that case, maybe some introductory reading would be the book Emergency. I found that book to be really useful. It explores the idea of getting multiple passports and things of that nature. Again, it's not something that I'm panicking over, but it's something I'm aware of. I think it's always valuable and intelligent to have a second passport. I'm not a hardcore gold bug or cryptocurrency enthusiast, but at the same time, having some of your assets in those sort of asset classes in case we do see wild inflation, I think can be really intelligent. But again, until you're like rich, I don't think there's a lot of purpose in worrying about losing everything. First, get rich and have a bunch of shit for people to want to take from you, and then worry about protecting it. I think way too early in most investors' career do they move towards diversification. And diversification's only good for protection. It's only a defensive play. And again, until you've made your nut, until you've really built some substantial wealth, I don't think that you need to be too worried about the communists coming for you. If and when they do, you'll at least see it coming a mile away, because they'll have came for a lot bigger figures first. And that maybe sounds very bleak and cold, but I actually take satisfaction in knowing that I'm not going to be the first canary in the coal mine. So I will certainly keep my eyes on the canaries in the coal mine. And if things drift too extreme, again, then we'll take certain protections. But I think it usually makes sense to be an optimist. And that's how I'm certainly going to proceed going forward. So, all right, guys, we are 15 minutes in. We have neither played a video game nor smoked weed, so let's try and correct that. I'll start off by smoking weed, and then we'll bring up the video game. Today, I'm going to be playing around with Kingdom Rush Vengeance. So I don't know how this is going to go. You guys tell me. Let me know if you get value from it, if you enjoy kind of hanging out like this. I thought if nothing else, it would kind of mix things up for me, just because, I don't know, answering the same real estate questions every week. I mean, you guys don't seem to get tired of it, but sometimes I do. This is also going to be the first time that I'm smoking weed in my bedroom. So we'll find out if I set the fire alarm off, which almost guaranteed I'm going to. This was poor planning. But anyways, let's get into it. All right. So Peter, if you can do the screen sharing thing, awesome. So I've got my Kingdom Rush up there. I can still see your comments on YouTube and Instagram as well. So I'll make sure I answer a couple of those while smoking weed and playing video games. This is the future if I ever saw it. What's my opinion on Quebec overall? I'm glad they never left us, if that's what you're asking. But outside of that, that's not going to work, Instagram. You're right in the way of me playing my video game. All right. So Quebec's got a lot of weird rules and regulations, a lot of things that are a pain in the ass, but at the same time, Ontario's not that easy to deal with. I think the language laws are a little bit, I think the language laws are stupid. And I think that it's that sort of government interference that really impacts the ability of, societies like that to blossom. Now, one thing though I have noticed is if you guys have been looking to buy mansions or estates, Quebec is cheap. Like Quebec is really cheap. You're probably paying like 60, 75 cents on the dollar for your mansions in Quebec compared to Ontario. So that's attractive, but the taxes are kind of a bitch. The personal income taxes, I should specify. But yeah. So those are kind of my thoughts. What else we got going on here? Hey, I know you strictly buy for cash flow, but in London, that is good true cap rate on the turnkey fourplex in a good area. Yeah, like the problem is with cap rates, in theory, they're a great idea because it should be apples to apples comparisons. But in practice, what it actually is, it rarely actually works out that way because everyone mucks around with their cap rates and they kind of fib when it comes to those cap rates. So it makes it really difficult for us as investors to actually know what we're looking at. So that's kind of a frustration point for me with cap rates. So you guys often hear me bitch about that. But I would say if you're getting a real cap rate of somewhere between a 7 and an 8 here in London, most investors would be quite satisfied with that. At the same time, that real means like we're factoring in things like property management and additional costs and things of that nature. We're not getting taken for a ride and not having things like repairs and maintenance or other important expenses to be aware of being taken into consideration. So yeah. All right. Mr. McKeever, what do you think of self-storage properties? Do you have any? I do not have any self-storage properties. I got nothing against them. I think that they're a great investment, and I certainly see why a lot of investors get attracted to them. The idea of being able to just kick your tenants out the moment they don't pay you certainly is attractive compared to what we're used to dealing in the residential tenancy world. So, yeah. I'm not sure how good I'm going to be at multitasking here between all these things, but I'm having a good time. I don't know if you guys are. What's the difference in interest rates? Whoop, where'd that go? Well, I lost my question. What's the difference on interest rates on a mortgage versus hard money loan? Well, each one in theory can vary. So again, it's really going to depend upon the hard money lender you're dealing with. But in general, right now, mortgages are near all-time lows compared to what you're likely paying on the hard money side of things. So, it wouldn't be unheard of to begin a mortgage sub 2% right now, whereas hard money lending, again, depends on whether we're doing it secured and what position the security is as well. But anywhere from 8 to 16%. So, you could literally be looking at 8 times the expense in regards to your interest rate. So again, a lot of people get hung up on interest rates, but interest rates are really just another cost of doing business, guys, right? So the same way that hardwood floors cost a certain amount per square foot, or laminate floors cost a certain amount, or quartz countertops cost a certain amount, same thing holds true when we're talking about interest rates. So it's just a matter of inputting that cost of doing business into your spreadsheets and making sure that your numbers work, and you go forward. So, we regularly pay interest rates that 5-10 years ago, Matt would have a panic attack overseeing. But the difference is now I simply understand that that's truly just an input cost, and I shouldn't be getting emotional about my input costs. Just the cost of doing business. Anyone else ever play Kingdom Rush? Question: what percentage of revenue do you tend to use for repairs and maintenance on underwriting multifamily apartment deals? So when we're looking at multifamilies and what sort of percentage we're using for repairs and maintenance, in theory, it could vary for myself anywhere between 2 and 10%. Normally, we're probably going to be in the 5 to 8% range in regards to my percentages. But in a property that's in good shape, or where we know we're going to be doing a lot of renovations to fix it up, under those circumstances, it's not unusual for me to be willing to put it at 5%, but then I'll have a separate line item. Oh, my hero died. I'll have a separate line item for my lawn maintenance and snow maintenance. So that'll be another, oh man, this is falling apart, guys. That'll be another 1% each. So essentially I'll have 5% for 5% for repairs and maintenance, and then 1% for snow removal, and then 1% for lawn maintenance. So that's often how we do that. Oh, I'm getting slaughtered here. Well, we almost made it. All right. What's a ballpark range of cost to do a full duplex conversion? Let's assume you're starting off with 1,100 square foot, 1960s bungalow, which really hasn't had much done in decades. So the first thing is just going to be even determining in that basement, right? Is any of it finished, or are we starting with a blank slate? Because that's really going to dictate, those spiders are going to get me. That's going to dictate how much we're going to end up actually spending. But, I would probably guess that you're going to be on the low end 80,000, and on the high end maybe 150,000. But again, depends upon your region and stuff, and what people expect in regards to finishes and things of that nature as well. Well, oh man, that was just poor planning. So, yeah. Is it the right time to buy a rental property or wait for 2 or 3 months because it's harder to find tenants in the winter? It's not that much harder to find tenants in the winter, so I wouldn't let that hold you back from buying a rental property. In fact, in general, I think it's sometimes the best time of the year to buy when there's snow on the ground here in Canada, because who wants to sell a property in the middle of winter, or who wants to sell a property during December as well? So, what happened there, Instagram? You're still there? Okay. Instagram froze on me for a sec. So me and Jeff Weibel, we used to love making what we called Christmas Eve offers. And the reason we called them Christmas Eve offers is we would give them to people on Christmas Eve day. And we would make it conditional or irrevocable just to that evening. And understand, anyone that's going to respond to your Christmas Eve offer, that's a motivated seller. That's a motivated realtor. That's someone that wants to sell this property before Christmas happens. And we actually bought a property, I think, back in 2017 off of a Christmas Eve offer. So I think that honestly, now that the snow is flying, this is the time to at least be considering buying, because I think you'll find slightly better deals than you otherwise would in the market. Again, that doesn't mean that this is go blindly into deals, but certainly compared to other times of the year, I think winter is a great time to buy. When you first set up your LLC, did you find your first deal? Were you required to deposit your fee to a business bank account? Hey, Liam, this is kind of like all cart before the horse sort of questions. So none of this stuff really matters. So you don't have to have a corporation set up when you're first trying to buy a property. Even if you want to put it in a corporation, just make your offer, either like if I was making an offer for a corporation I hadn't set up yet, I could literally make it Matt McKeever and Trust for a corporation to be set up, or Matt McKeever and Trust just in general. And now it's just in general and Trust, and I can pick whatever I kind of want. Or I can just have a condition in the Schedule A that says the buyer has the right to assign the deal. And again, in that case, I can simply assign the property and roll with that. So I wouldn't get too hung up about having a corporation set up and the bank account ready the moment you start going shopping. In fact, most of the time, I'm trying to think now, I would say 75% of the time or more, I don't have the corporation set up until after I've got an accepted purchase and sale agreement. So I wouldn't stress on that too much. Hey, we unlocked a new tower. What else is going on here? What age did you start investing at, and how did you go about your first deal? Yeah, great question, Adam. So started investing at age 25, bought 2 properties that year. They were student rentals, and that 2 stars cuts deep, missing that 3rd star. But yeah, student rentals. The reason I was attracted to student rentals were they were some of the best, strongest cash flowing properties you could find in my market. So that inherently just kind of attracted me to them. And then beyond that, I bought another student rental the year after that, another student rental the year after that. So essentially buying 1 a year until I kind of hit, the 5 mortgage limit here in Canada that everyone stresses about. And back then, unfortunately, I was stupid, so I listened to CIBC Bank. And so when people hear me go off about CIBC Bank on my TikToks, and they're like, "Why do you hate CIBC?" That's part of the reason. So I can literally remember talking to the CIBC employee and being like, "Well, I'm sure there's someone in this country that has 5 mortgages. How did they get it?" And they're like, "Matt, I don't know. If you go double your salary." So I literally went from a $50,000 a year job to switching industries so that I could try and climb the corporate ladder, so I could start making 6 figures, so I could buy another rental property, so I eventually could make enough cash flow so I could eventually quit my day job. So I literally got a new day job so I could quit it, which was stupid because I didn't know about private lending. I hadn't talked to mortgage brokers. I didn't really want to use other people's money because I was just being stubborn. And again, there's nothing wrong if you decide to go it alone, but I understand you can either go fast alone or go far with a group, right? Is that how the saying goes? I think so. So yeah, that's kind of my backstory. And then in 2016, I really started scaling up at the age of 31 because I really just started leaning into other people's money, doing the BRRRR investment strategy, using, speeding up the velocity of my money so I could recycle it faster and buy more and more properties. Hey, Matt, what's your advice for a 17-year-old looking to get into real estate investing, wholesaling, and house hacking? Hey, Zach, I would say the first thing I would focus on is just networking. Surround yourself with like-minded individuals. If you're 17, it's really easy to get people's attention just because of how young you are. So what I would really focus on is just lean into being young, right? A lot of investors will remember being young and ambitious, but they won't have had the sort of foresight that you have in regards to, starting to try and learn at age 17. So, believe it or not, even at age 35, literally double your age now, I still get a lot of benefit by sometimes being the youngest person in the room. And so I really don't find it to be a disadvantage. I truly find it to be an advantage, where people will, they just want to share their wisdom and understand that a lot of the experienced investors out there, their friends and family are actually sick or annoyed of hearing them talk about real estate. So when a young gun like you is interested in hanging off their every word, not only is it a bit of an ego stroke for them, but it actually also like it's just it satisfies an aspect of them wanting to give advice to their younger self, right? Because they'll see an aspect of themselves in you. I originally thought about playing Civilization 6 and going live, but then I was like, it'd probably be rude if I just ignored the audience the entire time. So the reason I'm not playing Civilization 6, which would definitely be the game I'm most addicted to right now, is because, I mean, it would just be kind of pointless because I would forget you guys existed. All right, what else going on? I'm not qualifying for at least 300K due to my current higher mortgage of 800K. But if I want to buy first rental property, it's hard to multitask. 800K, but if I want to buy first rental, what are other options? I'm not qualifying for at least. Okay. So you currently have a large mortgage and you can't qualify for another mortgage. What are your options in regards to becoming a real estate investor? Well, a couple options here. One, we could look at getting rid of the expensive mortgage. So if that's really limiting us, I'm going to guess that it probably costs a substantial amount of your income. So one, I would encourage you to at least consider house hacking. So is there some sort of way that I can maybe rent out or sublet part of the existing house I have? Or should I maybe look at selling that property and finding a different property that's more suited to house hacking? Beyond that, if you can't qualify for a mortgage for whatever reason, then we can always look at using other people's money and other people's resources, right? So we can be the active partner, try and find a money partner who will qualify for the mortgage and maybe even come up with the down payment and all that jazz and really go about investing that way. So that could be another option. And yeah, then otherwise you could look at strategies that maybe don't require as much cash, wholesaling, maybe get into some smaller flips, or try and find vendor take-back deals, right? There's a variety of options there. It really just comes down to what your overall goals are and stuff. But the one thing I would say to everyone watching this and anyone that's either a aspiring or successful real estate investor, remember that we should never be limited by our personal resources because our personal resources are always going to be finite. Other people's resources, other people's money will always be infinite. So you need to really get comfortable leaning on and using other people's resources. So if not this deal, when is my constant question to real estate investors. And for whatever reason, every investor tries to put this off as long as possible or kick this can down the road, when you're better off just embracing it and making the most of it. Again, using other people's money doesn't necessarily mean that you have to take on joint venture partners or give up equity. There's really two options, right? We can sell debt or we can sell equity when we're looking at using other people's money. Hey, Matt, I live in Waterloo region. Got any advice for 4 locals looking to start? And do you have any meetups here pre-COVID? Yeah, so Anna and Doug Scott host a great meetup in the Kitchener-Waterloo, Cambridge area, so I'd recommend checking out their meetup group. Beyond that, for locals looking to start, I'd recommend joining Cashflow Tribe, right? If you guys haven't joined cashflowtribe.com, that's my online education community. Really, guys, we're Canada's fastest growing #1 resource for Canadian real estate investors. And really just want to encourage you guys to make the most of that. So we've got over 1,500 users there. You can join for free and interact in the forums and some of the groups. But if you end up getting a paid membership, you get access to hundreds of hours of curated video content, lots of written courses, quizzes, assignments, all kinds of stuff like that, plus 5 live trainings. So if you guys didn't know, every Monday and Friday, I go live for about an hour, hour and a half with Cashflow Tribe and just answer any questions, do any deal analysis. So essentially, if you've ever seen an episode of Deal Destruction and wanted to be a part of that, that's what I do every Monday and Friday for Cashflow Tribe. So, yeah. All right, let's jump back to the video game and the weed, because that's the whole point of tonight. But keep hitting me up with the questions. Hey, what's up, Jeff Weibel? Definitely hit that like button. Again, this is a little bit disorienting just because I can't see how many concurrents we have. But surprisingly, I'm getting the exact same amount of concurrents on Instagram, even though you guys can't see the video game, and I'm not really ever making eye contact with you. So that's interesting, Instagram. That's awesome to hear. Nicole's made some great connections on Cashflow Tribe. And let's get back into this game. All right, what other questions we got? Can you make money hiring a property management company to manage your rental properties, or is it better to manage the rental yourself? My mind's of two opinions. Oh, how did those guys get there? Well, that's going to end poorly. Well, shit. Let's start over. So yeah, you can definitely make money using property management and outsourcing it. In general, like, I think you're usually going to find the best results go in this order. This won't auto start. Okay. The best results usually go in this order: self-managed, then in-source management, then outsource management. So there definitely is certain opportunity costs with outsourcing management, but as long as you build a good system to manage your manager, you should still be able to make plenty of money as a real estate investor. So, yeah, I wouldn't immediately assume that you can't succeed doing that, but certainly I think you'll get the greatest profit margin self-managing than insourcing. But here's the rub: we can't self-manage if we really want to build an empire. So at some point in time, you have to be willing to either insource or outsource management responsibilities. So either way, in my opinion, at some point as an investor, you're going to have to do that. So you're better off trying to build systems and just make sure you get deals with enough margins that you can afford to outsource the management. Oh, I think I brought this back to life. Smoky. Question: ever had a multi-appraisal come under offer price? Also, what do you do when you find a great multi-property but sellers have a silly appraisal value, fair market rents? Thanks, Matt. You the man. Appreciate that, financial mechanic. Let's pause this before I get killed. So yeah, I think we've definitely had multifamilies come in below appraised value. Sometimes frustratingly so. A recent example I could share with you is around this time last year, we bought a 17-unit apartment building here in London for what I thought was an amazing price. We bought it for $95,000 a unit, but somehow the appraisal came in at $88,000 a unit or $87,000 a unit, something silly like that. I was like, this guy's out to lunch. You're essentially faced with two options, right? You can fight it and either try and argue with them, or you can go get another appraisal done, or you can just accept it. In that case, the difference wasn't enough that we were willing to fight it, so we just made up the difference. But fast forward, and we just reappraised it this year now, about maybe 12, 13 months since buying it and having it only appraised at $88,000, and it appraised at, what was it again? $158,000 a unit, I want to say, is what it appraised at. It was either 148 or 158, but I think it was 158. So again, like, I don't think it actually doubled in value. I think it was originally undervalued, and the guy just valued it low for a variety of silly reasons. Now, one of the reasons you brought up there is the fact that below fair market rents, and that definitely can hinder your appraisal values. So that's something that definitely as investors we need to look out for, and can really impact your appraisal value. Oh, all right. I just don't know. We're going to have to restart this again. Can you say happy birthday to my friend, Nick Gurr? He would really appreciate it and would mean a lot to him. Happy birthday, Nick Gurr. Also, as a CPA, do you think opening a firm is a good idea? Hey, Halo. I mean, it depends on what you want out of life, right? Opening a firm, I think, can be a great way to build your financial fortress of solitude. I don't think it's a get-rich-quick scheme. I think it takes a lot of work. For me, the only thing that would be attractive about starting the firm would be if I could be like the rainmaker partner and just do the networking and relationship building. I definitely wouldn't want to be the compliance and regulatory partner or the HR partner. But that's just me and like my personal skill set. So that wouldn't be very attractive for me personally, but certainly you can make good money. I would say like in this part of Canada, right in Southwestern Ontario, as an equity partner, I imagine you're going to be starting somewhere in the low twos and going up as high as 8, 9, maybe even $1 million a year. And if you happen to own like a little boutique shop or consulting firm, or maybe had, just like a niche practice, again, you might be able to clear $1 million plus a year. But yeah, it's going to take you several years minimum to either climb the ladder or to build up your practice. And even then, you'd have to be an exceptional individual to do in that short of period of time. So like anything, with the right sort of attitude and motivation and just commitment to hard work, you can definitely do well for yourself there. But I hate the idea of having to do timesheets for the rest of my life. Bruh, are you a millionaire? Well, I wouldn't be a very good real estate investor in this market if I wasn't. Mind sharing what... A lot of net worth questions, eh? Hey, Matt, in your experience, how big of a deal is managing a student rental remotely? I'm looking at self-manage my new investment, but I'm 3 hours away. Karen, I think as long as you've got a decent handyman or like emergency contact person that can go by the property, I think you can self-manage without any major issues or hiccups. But without a good without a good just like gopher or emergency contact there, if things go sideways, you might end up having some pretty expensive emergency calls from like plumbers and general contractors and stuff like that. So, I mean, sometimes that can hurt a little bit just when you see those bills come in. But again, it's just a matter of building into your business model. And student rentals usually cash flow really well. So often we've got the cash flow necessary to be able to weather those little expenses. What does non-refundable earnest money mean if you buy the home? Do you get it back? Well, non-refundable makes it sound like we're not getting it back. And earnest money is just money that we put down on the property, essentially. So usually like earnest money in Canada, we're referring that as like our deposit, right? So whatever you put down is your deposit, is your earnest money. That's kind of the money you're committed to in the deal. And so the moment I hear that word non-refundable, it clearly indicates we're probably not going to be able to get our money back. All right. Have you done any developments where you've gone from a single family house to a triplex or a fourplex? No, haven't done anything like that. I don't have anything in theory against it. It's just all those things like developments and rezoning properties and stuff, they sound a lot cooler than they actually are because they're actually a bunch of work. They take long periods of time, and oftentimes there's not a lot of guarantees. So my perception of risk is that they're higher than average in that regards. So again, I know lots of people think that that's no fun, that I kind of think that way, but that's just the reality for us as investors, right? We need to always be looking at what's our return on time. And for me, I want the highest return on time activities, whatever those happen to be. So things like development sometimes just take too long with too much unknown in regards to the upside for me as an investor. Hey, what's up, Robin? Okay, what else do we got? Let's go up here a bit. Jeff Weibel talking about corp. Okay, I'll leave corporation talk to Jeff Weibel. How do you deal with days when you're feeling down or feeling like you're procrastinating? Yeah, man. Everyone procrastinates and everyone struggles with motivation, but definitely at some point in time, you just need to ask yourself, like, when am I just going to become a fucking winner? And this is actually a speech I gave to my team this morning. Like, for each of us, we sometimes just need to make that hard choice, that hard commitment, and just decide, like, hey, no matter what, I'm going to make this happen. And there's something really empowering about just leaning into it and just wanting it so bad that you'll do whatever it takes. And so oftentimes the reason we're not putting in enough hard work, the reason we don't get what we want, is because we just haven't got enough clarity on our roadmap. So we don't even have enough buy-in from ourselves in regards to whatever it is that we want. So oftentimes when people set out goals like, I want to get rich with real estate, I mean, that sounds cool, but like, what does that actually mean? Right? Like, are you actually going to be willing to put in the hard work, the long nights? You know, are you going to be willing to go against your family when they're like, oh, why do you want to be a landlord? You got a good, safe job. Why do you want to have to deal with, you know, shitty toilets and bad tenants? And yeah, you know, like, problems are profits, right? Is a common saying we've got around here. So it's really up to each of us as individuals to decide how we want to interpret that. And where some people are just going to see nothing but headaches and pain in the ass, others are just going to find ways to make it happen. HML, hard money lending. Have you looked at triplex conversions in the Toronto market? No, I don't look too much in Toronto just because it just doesn't fit my business model. So I really just try and focus on doing a handful of things really well and not getting too caught up in shiny object syndrome. Again, people make money in real estate with a lot of different investment strategies in a lot of different ways. And again, all the power to them. But for me, I'm really just focused on doing my thing. Let's see. All right, that was a little touch and go, but I think we're going to make it through. Oh, hey, what's up? Appreciate the $10 super chat. That doesn't happen every day. No problem. Happy to answer. Matt, I know this isn't really your strategy, but what do you think about buying real estate for the land and rebuilding and selling for hire? Yeah, Dylan, like there's definitely my hero just died. I wasn't paying attention. Goddamn. Yeah, like there's definitely money to be made doing that. Again, for me, it's just really the return on time factor there. And is there enough of a return on time for me to want to spend my hard-earned time and energy and money trying to implement that strategy? Again, sometimes totally makes sense. But it's not something where I've got a competitive advantage. And that's something you'll hear me talk about a lot is like, where's my competitive advantage? And if I don't immediately see a competitive advantage, I'm usually not drawn into other strategies or other markets because I already have a decent competitive advantage here in Southwestern Ontario. So well, shoot. We're just holding on here, guys. Matt, another question. Do you use mortgage brokers for your multi-deals or do you deal with lenders directly? Thanks. Super grateful for your answers. Keep crushing it from Saskatoon. Yeah, we primarily use mortgage agents these days just for our deals and stuff, right? We're burning apartment buildings. So it takes it takes a specific sort of mortgage partner to really be able to come up with the sort of solutions we need for the type of deals we're doing. So, yeah, we're using, guys like the Finlay guys. Well, let's try and see if I can say, oh, my hero just died. Goddamn. You know, guys like the Finlay team on some mortgages. We've got a bunch of different lenders. At the end of the day, it's really whatever lender can make the deal happen is the lender that we're going to be using. But certainly, you need to have strong relationships with your lenders as well. Do you have any fears of not being able to pay back your lenders, and how do you make sure that you do and still make a good profit? Run your numbers, man. You just really got to be dialed into what's going on with your spreadsheets. And as long as you know your numbers, trust in your numbers, and again, just don't lie to yourself, right? A lot of investors get emotionally hijacked when they start looking at deals or opportunities. Oh, come on, save my hero. Okay. It's important that we can remain emotionally detached from deals and transactions rather than getting hijacked because, again, a lot of investors fall victim to their emotions. Well, I think I'm about to lose here. That's what happens when you answer questions, smoke weed, and try and play video games all at the same time. What else we got? What has been your biggest success and failure in the past week? What's been my biggest success in the last week? There's a handful of different things that come to mind. I don't know what really stands out, though. Yeah, we're just always moving forward and stuff. So we're definitely making some good moves with our social media team and department. I'm just really excited about a lot of the planning I'm doing going forward to 2021 and really just going to make the most of that. Really looking forward to taking over the world. Um, and then, yeah, what would have been my biggest disappointment? Um, I guess I went to a store the other day and it was only open by appointment only, so that was frustrating. That was definitely one of my biggest first world problems I had to deal with recently. But I got through it. I survived. Ooh, although I might not survive this level. It's going to be tight. I don't know. Not a lot of margin for error. My dude's not going to be able to run there fast enough. Oh, but can I nuke it? Oh, that was close. Oh, I died? Oh, I thought I was just going to scrape by. Well, shucks. Hey, Matt, when considering a lending opportunity, is it better to have a promissory note or your name on title? Also, which one is more secure? Well, a promissory note's just a piece of paper promising to pay someone back. So, having your name on title definitely would appear to be a stronger form of security. I don't think anyone would really disagree with me on that. All right. I don't know. How was this for you guys? Did you guys enjoy this? Was this a worthwhile live stream? Instagram, I question some of your judgments here because I'm shocked you guys hung out with me, but I appreciate the 20 of you that did so. And definitely appreciate everyone that was actively commenting in the YouTubes. Appreciate the super chat there. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I don't know. Would you like to see more of this? Should we consider doing this on a more regular basis? Um, Maybe I mix it up, do this every other week, just kind of keep things fresh. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section. But definitely was kind of fun for me just to multitask, although I really don't like losing at this game. So I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little bit frustrated with myself. Um, as a Canadian, have you invested in any U.S. real estate? No, I haven't actually invested in any Canadian real estate. Appreciate all the love in the comments there, though, guys. Definitely do appreciate that. Awesome. Well, I'm going to wrap up for the night. Again, appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Monday night. I know there's a lot of different ways you could spend your Monday night. So the fact that you guys would spend it with me speaks volumes. I'm going to say bye to Instagram right now, and then I'll quickly answer a couple more questions on YouTube, and then we'll call it a night here as well. But first, let's share this to IG because sometimes it freezes if I don't do it quickly. All right. I assume that posted. Hope it did. Although that I'm not used to the new app yet, so I don't know if that just worked or not. Working on a wholesale deal. Don't have. Whoop, disappeared. Working on a wholesale deal. Don't have it under contract, but wondering how I can secure a finder's fee on the sale. Well, Jamar, first things first, you're going to want to make sure that you're not brokering in real estate. In order to not be brokering in real estate, that means you're going to want to make sure that you get it under contract first before you try and get a finder's fee or assignment fee, I should say. Now, if you're just going to get like an introduction fee for introducing someone to the deal and they negotiate the deal themselves, you know, that can be acceptable. Again, just depending upon exactly how you structure it. But certainly you want to make sure that you're not running afoul of like the REBA 2002 Act, or else you'll find yourself on the wrong side of RICO and they'll send you a cease and desist letter or a slap on the wrist letter. Man, I don't think this fucking posted on Instagram. God damn it. Instagram, you make this too hard. Well, anyways, appreciate those of you that hung out with me on YouTube, and definitely appreciate you guys hanging out while I played some video games. Definitely 16-year-old Matt would have never believed that he'd be able to get high, play video games, and have 100 internet strangers hang out with him at the same time. So appreciate you guys, and I am signing off here if I know how.